Good evening to you all. Thanks for joining us on the time newscast on Equinox Television live from our central news desk in Douala, Cameroon. It is 6 p.m. In this edition of the newscast, the U.S. Secretary of State in charge of African Affairs, Thibault Nagy, reiterates that Cameroon is one of the countries in Africa that gives him sleepless nights. He was speaking within the context of the crisis hitting the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. The U.S. statesman was addressing members of the U.S. Congress, and the governor of the northwest region of Cameroon, Adolphe Lele-Lafrique, has created a commission in order to evaluate the damage so far caused by the incident that occurred on Wednesday in two neighborhoods of the city of Bamenda that led to the destruction of houses and business premises in that part of the country. Those were our top stories. Once again, thanks for joining us. We're on Equinox, 6 p.m. newscast from Douala. My name is, for me, Armstrong Sander. We talk about the declaration of Thibault Nagy, that is the U.S. Assistant Secretary in charge of African Affairs, who declared that efforts employed by the Cameroon government in order to solve the crisis hitting the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon have not so far been effective. He was speaking to members of the U.S. Congress recently. More in the following report.
Mr. Thibault Nagy, who was speaking before members of the U.S. Committee on Foreign Affairs, says the violence in the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon is going to get worse and worse, and the government will not be able to win the war militarily.
Both sides are becoming further and further radicalized. Unfortunately, I believe that the president of Cameroon is being told by his hardliners that he can win this thing militarily. There is no way that they're going to win this militarily. The violence is going to get worse in the northwest and the southwest.
Thibault Nagy fears the whole world will be blind in West Cameroon and might even spread further.
The arm for an arm, literally an eye for an eye, and the whole world will be blind there. The violence will spread to the West Province. It may even spread to the Littoral Province, which is the large city of Douala.
He also thinks that strikes and confrontations might worsen radicalization and create the kind of Boko Haram phenomenon in the two English-speaking regions of Cameroon. On measures taken by the government this far to resolve the crisis, Thibault Nagy says the government has done nothing to concretize the claims that it is ready to dialogue.
I sat with President Biya a couple of months ago in Cameroon, and he told me, yes, we're interested in dialogue, but the government has done nothing to show for it. They've set up some Potemkin institutions which have not done anything. We continue to press forward with our allies. We had an Arias at the United Nations aid, and it's so clear that everybody wants to move forward on this. Are sanctions on the table? Everything's on the table.
He believes that what the country needs is a national and broad-based dialogue, including the diaspora.
Because what the country needs more than anything else is a genuine, open dialogue, probably to include the diasporas of the Cameroonians, because they have a great deal of interest in this.
In the absence of a dialogue to end the crisis, the U.S. diplomat says the United States and its allies will consider other options, including sanctions.
The best we can do for right now is just work with our allies to really make the Cameroonian government understand the need for a real dialogue. And if that doesn't happen relatively quickly, then we have to look at the array of other tools we have in our toolkit, because frankly, the possibility of sanctions is always there.
Thibault Nagy, like others, believe that it is in the interest of everybody to have a national broad-based dialogue, because the crisis will not end militarily, and every day the situation and atrocities in the northwest and southwest will get worse and worse.
And within the context of the challenges faced by the people of the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, the governor of the northwest region, Adolphe Lele-Lafrique, has created a commission so far to evaluate destruction at Mwachu, Alachu, and Matzam neighborhoods in Bamenda 2 subdivision after the destructive incident of Wednesday, the 15th of May 2019. He says the commission has as objective to evaluate the humanitarian situation, identify victims and their needs, and equally ascertain material damage and property destroyed. On Wednesday, the 15th of May 2019, Cameroonians Defense and Security Forces stormed the neighborhood in that parts of the country after two of their elements, according to information from the Cameroon Ministry of Defense, were ambushed and killed by suspected separatist fighters. The governor earlier on a visit to the site indicated that the government was investigating to identify those directly responsible to the destruction or responsible for the destruction of houses, business premises in these parts of the Bamenda 2 subdivision. He equally indicated that they will be brought to book, especially those responsible for the killing of two soldiers of the Cameroonian Defense and Security Forces. And of course, his communique creating this commission was published today in Bamenda, chief town of the northwest region of Cameroon. Our reporter Mbu Stella was equally on the field, and of course we'll be filing in a report that will surely be yours in subsequent editions of the news on Equinox television. And we stay in the conflict-hit regions of Cameroon, but this time around, not in the northwest. We are in the southwest region of Cameroon, where Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph John Gotti is expected to round up his 4-day official visit to the southwest region. On day 3, that was Friday, the Prime Minister went to the town of Kumba in the Meme division, where he took a stock of the challenges faced by inhabitants of the city of Kumba. A roundup of day 3 of the activities of the head of government is in this report, filed in by Derek Jato from Buea.
The Cameroon Prime Minister and Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph Dion Goute, is leaving the Buea-Kumba Road war story. Everywhere is calm, and the Cameroon Ministry of Defense has planted best of her men along this Buea-Kumba Road. And from the sky, the Air Force is scanning the environment for any eventuality. The destructions along this road have the fingerprint of the perpetrators. The observant Prime Minister and Head of Government is witnessing for himself that every house along this road, from Ikona to Kumba, has bullet wounds and have been abandoned. Not only people have died here, but cars too have been victims. In Kumba, the separatist fighters had called for a ghost town, and the Kumba City Council is fighting that head on here at the Kumba Central Market.
Open your stores and display. Don't stand here me. That means, go open your store. Go and open your store and display. Don't tell me you want to open your store and try to close it. That's not opening.
The Prime Minister and Head of Government saw all these. Reason why addressing the Meme people at the grandstand, Chief Dr. Joseph Dion Goute said the energy that used to animate Kumba, the town where he was born, had long gone out, and the population should do everything possible to bring back this economic hub of the region to its feet.
Life, it not be the same for Cape Town like we did before. That lie? The Bible tells we say time day for everything. Time day for violence, but time day for peace as well. No be so? That's the reason Papa Bia sent me say, make a tell una beg una say the time for stop this violence it don't reach. Una hear? Una agree? Una agree?
And these 22 boys came out that they were the separatist fighters and have now surrendered. Earlier, Chief Dr. Joseph John Goute made a stop at the Kumba District Hospital. This hospital was burned down last February 10, 2019. The Cameroon Prime Minister will encourage the staff of the hospital to continue saving lives and thank them for their bravery.
And before his visit to the chief town of the Meme Division, Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph Dion-Gote equally went to the opaque city of Limbe, where he met with stakeholders of the Fako Division as well as traditional rulers of Limbe. In Limbe, people of this part of the southwest region called on the Prime Minister to first demilitarize the two English-speaking regions and equally consider the reinstitution of the lost legacies of West Cameroon. More in the following report.
Under tight security and heavily guarded by armed-to-teeth combat-ready defense and security forces, Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph Dion-Gote drove past trouble-hit areas such as Mile 14, Mile 16, Mutengene and Mile 4 to enter the opaque city of Limbe. The Prime Minister made his first stop at the Mile 2 junction, where he was received by a mammoth crowd comprising administrative, judicial, municipal and traditional authorities of the city of Limbe and Fako Division in general. The warm welcome reserved for Chief Dr. Joseph Dion-Gote was equally animated by different traditional dance groups and student population from some schools in the city of Limbe. The chants and dances were equally accompanied by sounds from commercial motorbike riders who joined the population to welcome the Prime Minister to the city of Limbe. In a charismatic style, the Prime Minister stepped down from his car, walked for over 1 kilometer at the half-mile vicinity at the heart of the city of Limbe, waving and saluting the population. Some of the messages carried out by the people speak of how desperately the people want peace to return in the two English-speaking regions of Cameroon. With the hall jam-packed to capacity, the Prime Minister addressed the population, highlighting that he is bearer of a good message from President Paul Biya.
He say, no one will begin the need to face danger. When they do for bush, they face danger. They face all kind of problems for no reason. Me, they come up for bush, they come back. They enjoy like all other picking their way they do for the rest of the republic. Whether they go school, whether they play football, whether they do sports, whether they do their small business. Don't be so. So I want to tell those picking them say, President, don't talk, say, that problem will be for their heart. Say they say they want separation. Separation is not going to be because Cameroon are one and united country. But any other problem where they get, they go sit down for table with them. It is costly. You don't take that engagement. When I tell them, say no need for them to stay for push. No be gone be talk. Now people that be talk.
Different traditional and municipal authorities equally had the opportunity to talk on the crisis, most of them with diverging and converging views vis-a-vis the Anglophone crisis, and some of them equally complained of how bad the Anglophone crisis has affected activities in the southwest and northwest regions of Cameroon. The people called on the head of government to transmit the message of the need to release all those arrested within the context of the Anglophone crisis and equally engage in a meaningful and broad-based dialogue in order to end the Anglophone crisis. The people of Limbe asked, among other things, the return of the lost legacies of the people of West Cameroon. The people of Limbe equally demanded the withdrawal of the army from towns and villages so as to permit those in bushes to come out. His visit to the city of Limbe, chief town of the Fako Division, ended with a visit to the Down Beach neighborhood of Limbe.
And students of the Catholic University Institute of Douala have been urged to put into practice what they learn in their classes. The call came from Reverend Father George Nkese, who came all the way from Buea in the southwest region of the country during activities marking the trade fair organized by Catholic University, the first of its kind on the Douala campus. More with Semanjikan Gabriel.
The unstable socio-political atmosphere in the southwest region of Cameroon has left many business activities on a slump. Just like store owners, schools have been also affected by the crisis. Reasons why the student entrepreneurial fair of the Catholic University that usually holds in Buea has been pushed to the Douala campus. The entrepreneurial fair, according to the head of the institution, is a sort of practicals for its students.
It's the premier game changer of entrepreneurship in Cameroon and in Africa. We call it education by doing. Not enough to go to the 4 walls of the class. For us in CIB, what happens out of the classroom is more important because students spend 90% of their time out of the classroom. So this is what we call the outcome of many activities that CIB organizes, called the academic fair.
The crisis that is disturbing many institutions in the southwest region, the president says is a challenge for his students to think out of the box.
See any challenge as an opportunity, not as an e-lock. Because in Cameroon, when people have challenges, they say somebody has bewitched them, somebody is behind their failure. Not the CIB. CIB students have been trained to understand that every challenge makes the brain smarter, and when you face the challenge, it becomes smarter. That's why our students understand it, because we have trained them in phrenology, and so they know that when you have a challenge, it makes the brain smarter, and that's why we can face challenges like this and have opportunities like this.
The students' fair ends this Sunday.
And in the following report, Simanji Kangebre takes us to Mbimbe. Mbimbe is a village in the Sanaga Maritime Division of the Littoral region. He will be telling us how inhabitants are using the wood found in that locality to make charcoal, which is being commercialized.
In the heart of Mbindi Forest, while flames fumes out just around the area, charcoal on the ground, and also several trees that have been cut down. It is a hole that has been dug to enable the illegal production of charcoal. These illegal activities have been ongoing in the forest for several years, to the disappointment of the population who have bet their eyes to see their forest disappear. You can see for yourself that the forest is almost finished. There is no wood again. Our children won't even know if a forest existed here. For instance, we call this simo leaf. When our grandmother put them in fire, it burns for a long time. Even wood to construct homes is finished.
Tu veux faire maintenant construire ta maison. Tu ne vois pas le bois qu'il faut exploiter pour la maison.
Before the charcoal makers, it was the forest exploiters who for the past years have cut down almost every tree standing. Amongst the trees still standing, a charcoal specialist says they choose those trees that have been protected by the laws.
Oui, il y a eu d'abord les grands exploitants forestiers qui étaient ici.
We had some forest exploiters who cut down every tree, those that are rare. Now the charcoal makers are here. They have destroyed everything.
Vous voyez la forêt est vierge, est vide, il n'y a plus rien.
These bags in the forest filled with charcoal is an indication of the success the activity is witnessing. 2 times in a week, heavy-duty vehicles are spotted in the forest to ferry out the charcoal. That a bag costs 5,000 francs CFA.
Ils sortent avec ça dans les camions.
They take them out via our little roads, which they end up destroying and never come back to repair.
Vous arrivez parfois, ils ne réparent pas. Ils ne peuvent pas réparer les ponts, mais eux ils gâtent.
For now, nothing has been done by the administrative authorities of the Sanaga Maritime Division or even the traditional rulers who say the exploiters have permission to carry out their activities.
Mais nous savons que
the state is aware of it. Where else can we go and cry?
Parce que puisque vous croyez que ils viennent comme ça que l'État ne connaît pas que eux ils exploitent.
It is at this dilapidated structure that the charcoal makers spend their night almost in an empty air. The villagers say they consume hard drugs which is not safe for their families and them to live around.
Même chaque jour. Chaque jour quand ils boivent, ils prennent aussi le le tramol, le chanvre indien, il commence les bagarres partout.
As the administration sits quiet, so too the forest is gradually disappearing.
As villagers of Mbimbe in the Sanaga Maritime Division of the Littoral Region cry for the fast rates at which their forest is being cut off, those of Ntui, which is a locality in the central region of Cameroon, are crying the lack of basic social amenities, notably potable water, lack of roads and electricity. Immaculate Fogwe takes us to Ntui in the central region of Cameroon.
The source is exposed to all sorts of waterborne diseases, and the water oozing out of it is probably contaminated, but he has no choice than to drink the water. It is from this doubtful source that inhabitants of Twi subdivision in the central region of Cameroon quench their thirst. The population are equally faced with the problem of poor road network, no energy, and lack of healthcare services in their area. The inavailability of potable water, no energy, poor roads, and healthcare services are some of the challenges we are faced with. For us to obtain healthcare services, we have to cover 30 kilometers, that is from Koloto to Ntui, so as to receive medical attention. I think we have been abandoned by the government. Not far away from Kolotu is a locality known as Bamdona, still located in the Twi subdivision. Access to basic social amenities is still a dream that has to realize itself. We are forced to send our children to go to school in Twi, that is 25 to 30 kilometers from here. Is that normal? The youth of Bandona are disappointed and demoralized concerning the situation. This other inhabitant says, I was forced to go construct a house in Twi, where I carried along my whole family. Here in Bandona, we don't have schools, hospitals, and good roads. Access to healthcare services is another problem. One has to cover 15 kilometers just to receive medical attention. If I am sick during the night and my wife is in labor, how can one cope with the situation? When it rains, our roads become very muddy. The natives of the area have taken upon themselves the task of filling up potholes so as to ease the movement of vehicles. We have no choice than to fill up these potholes. Transporting our foodstuffs from the farm to our homes is a nightmare, worse still when it rains. Our soils are very rich, but transporting the crops is a real problem. Though blessed with natural resources like timber, cocoa, coffee, to name but these, inhabitants of this locality say they have been caged in misery.
And I will take you back to Bamenda in the northwest region of Cameroon, where the peace message preached by Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph John Gotti is apparently yet to reach perpetrators of violence in these parts of the country. Few days after he left the northwest region, the burning of houses, violent clashes, and confrontation between the defense and security forces of Cameroon and pro-independence fighters have continued in this region. One of the hard-hit localities, Bamenda 2 subdivision, where recently all tens of houses and business premises were burnt down in 3 villages in this subdivision. More in the following report by our Northwest Regional Correspondent, Bo Stella.
These women only have their eyes to cry. They, a majority of whom are widows, have lost their homes to flames. The incident happened on Wednesday, May 15, 2019 at about 2 p.m.
I would do na picking na father. He don't die. Na only me we at the manager. How we don't do so? I would really do na how. With my man, he don't die here. Leave this house for me, say me the money for pay. Now all that. I will not feel in our house. And that's what we're doing now. We don't run, no. Once we find our house, no.
don't know who's our picking them there. Oh, we don't know who's our picking them there.
Close them out in the ball. No, nothing no day. No, nothing no day. Oh, Father.
Who's our picking
No,
them
Lord Jesus. Oh, Father.
What was inside the house like that? They break the door and enter inside. Now after that, we enter the room and when I go out, our grandmother say lost flour on the floor. Now after that, they scatter things, broke things on the floor, put things on the floor here, they burn them. Now after that, these things. After that, in the morning, we came outside to come and see. That's how how they burned the house down.
From Mowashu through Alachu right up to Matsam quarters in Mankon, hardly can a house be seen without the evidence of last Wednesday's incident that also left 2 soldiers dead. This clinic, this worship center, businesses, private homes, deserted residents, cars in garages and along the roads were burned beyond recognition. Inhabitants of these neighborhoods have continued to count the damages.
After yesterday, I can't put on for the machine. I will ready do now.
I noticed that the house was burned. Everything in the house was burned down. Even my pigs, they shot 5 of them and killed all of them. So we removed nothing from the house. Everything is burned down.
For the key, birth certificate, ID card, we were just standing like this with nothing. Nothing. No ID card, no books, birth certificate, nothing. Nothing. We are just, as you see us, this is how we are, with this one cloth on us.
The night was a terrible one, locals told this reporter. This church house served as sleep space for many and hideout for some of their properties. According to General Aga Robinson, commander of the 5th Joint Military Region, 3 soldiers in civilian attire were ambushed on their way from work by gunmen believed to be the pro-independence fighters. One of the soldiers escaped after they were shot at and called for reinforcement. In the course of the crossfire between the army and the Ambazonian fighters, houses got burned. On ground to appreciate the situation was Northwest Governor Adolphe Lily-Lafrique and Nijan Frondi, national chairman of the Social Democratic Front Party.
I saw horrible carnage, terrible destructions, unimaginable destructions, wanton wickedness, deep-seated bitterness against the people. And as I say, 2 wrongs don't make a right.
The incident of last Wednesday is forcing many to flee their homes. This time, not for the fear of the unknown, but the lack of where to live. This incident comes 3 days after Prime Minister John Gute's peace mission to the Northwest region. The sorry sight is a reflection of many other villages in Bui Division and other parts of the Northwest region. According to government sources, investigations have been opened to track the perpetrators of this act. Also, an assessment team has been created for the compensation of victims. This fleeing population are adding up to the hundreds of thousands already displaced by the war.
Sad indeed. Thanks, Mbustela from Bamenda. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with that rather sad report that we put an end to this edition of the Primetime Newscast on your #1 television channel, Equinox Television. Thank you for watching. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.